October 15th, 2:30 a.m. Inside a secret North Korean base in Kursk, Russia, alarms wail. Every monitor flashes red with a chilling warning. 30 incoming HIMARS missiles. The command erupts, engage everything. A $15 million Panzer S-1 defense system fires a wall of interceptors tearing through the night sky. At the same moment, the Krasuka-4 jammer floods the base in brutal electronic noise, meant to fry the guidance brains of any rocket heading their way. On the ground, North Korean troops fire 60mm mortars blindly into the fog, desperate to hit anything that moves. But they hadn't stopped an attack, they'd stepped into a trap. Those weren't HIMARS salvos, they were 30 cheap FPV drones programmed to mimic million-dollar rockets. Their job? Make chaos and drag every Russian sensor northward. While the fake barrage stole attention, the real strike team, 20 FPVs and 10 heavy Baba Yaga drones crept in from the east, hidden by the hills. They weren't flying by GPS, they used something the Krasuka couldn't jam. And at 2 a.m., the twist that would shake the Russia-North Korea alliance began. 30 minutes before the decoys launched, the real mission lifted off from a muddy field near Sumy. The fog wasn't an obstacle, it was the weapon. 10-degree mist-cut visibility to under 100 feet. This was the birth of the Fog Pulse Blitz. The main wave of 20 FPVs dropped to 15 feet, hugging the icy Sime River. Each drone wore a thermal cloaking film reducing heat by 70%. Flying that low, the cold water and thick fog scattered radar, turning the drones into invisible phantoms. Meanwhile, 10 Baba Yaga drones climbed through the fog to 1,000 feet. Their task wasn't to strike, it was to guide. They pulsed coded microlasers through the mist, forming a GPS-proof corridor of light. On paper, the plan was flawless. Russian radar was blinded by weather. North Korean troops, lost in river forest terrain, couldn't see. A SEAL-style infiltration done with $2,000 drones. The plan looked perfect, but could it survive first contact? The base was about to go to full alert. Time: 2:35 a.m. In the Russian command post, celebration stopped cold. Fresh contacts flashed on the Nebo-M radar low fast, coming from the east. "What the hell is that?" shouted the commander. On the ground, North Korean patrols already heard the hornet-like buzz drawing near. A Korean officer screamed into his radio. 60mm mortars fired blindly. Explosions tore the fog. 5 Ukrainian FPVs shredded by shrapnel. Blood drawn. In the command post, the main screen turned red. Unidentified swarm infiltration. The Krasuka-4 jammer became a curse. It had blocked GPS but now blinded their own radar. North Korean troops were fighting ghosts. Thermal imagers showed fake heat signatures. They fired at illusions, wasting rounds on shadows. The flawless plan bled. The swarm was exposed, still 3 miles from its kill box. The Krasuka roared, turning the sky into a GPS graveyard. Any ordinary drone would have dropped dead mid-air, but not these. The Fog Pulse Blitz was fully active. High above, 10 Baba Yagas became lighthouses, pulsing lasers through the fog. You can jam radio, not light. Each 1.06 micrometer beam sliced through mist with 90% efficiency, painting the depot with 3-foot precision. FPVs locked onto those beams, then split the kill stroke. The swarm fractured into 3 autonomous wolf packs. 10 veered west behind a ridge, 10 swung east for a flank. The rest shot straight up the river, a frontal assault. For defenders, a simple defense turned into a 360-degree nightmare. North Korean troops fired manpads but couldn't lock on. The drones' heat signatures were too faint. They had slipped past Russia's multi-million-dollar shield. Then a sharper, meaner sound cut through the fog. From hidden pads, 20 interceptor drones launched a counter-swarm. The hunters had become the hunted. At 2:41 a.m., the air war over Kursk turned into a knife fight in a phone booth. 20 sleek interceptors screamed in at 80 miles an hour, built for one purpose: kill other drones. The sky became chaos. Inside a frozen trailer 50 miles away, a Ukrainian pilot's screen flashed red missile lock. A North Korean soldier got lucky, catching a brief radar lock through the fog. Sweat dripped as the pilot yanked left, pulling a beam maneuver. To the missile's brain, his speed hit 0. The lock broke, the rocket vanished into the night. But Russians, lost in chaos, fired a SAM into the biggest radar cluster they saw. The sky burst white, 3 friendly icons vanished. The flaw was fatal, no coordination. Russia and North Korea firing blind, hitting their own side as often as the enemy. The Ukrainian swarm now critically weakened. Lose a few more, and the mission dies. The ammo depot survives. At 2:43 a.m., the mission hung by a thread. The swarm was seconds from collapse, one step from failure. The mission was seconds from total failure. And then Ukraine played its ace. High above the dogfight, the 10 Baba Yaga drones weren't just guiding, they were waiting. On a single command, their bomb bay doors snapped open and unleashed hell from above. It wasn't more missiles. It was a cloud of 30 mini drones, each armed with a 2-pound warhead raining down into the battle. The sky became a storm of steel and plastic. This was the real fog pulse blitz. The North Korean interceptors built to chase a dozen large FPVs were now faced with an impossible equation. 30 new, smaller, faster targets, all screaming towards the depot, all guided by the unjammable laser pulses from above, their targeting systems overloaded. It was like trying to stop a tsunami with a paper towel. The surviving main FPVs, which the North Koreans thought were the primary threat, were actually the bait. As the interceptors panicked, trying to engage the cloud of mini drones, the 20 remaining FPVs saw their chance. They dove in from the dead angles provided by the hills, screaming towards the now defenseless ammunition depot. Every layer of Russia's multi-million-dollar defense had been peeled back. Every North Korean countermove had been anticipated and turned against them. The chaos, the fog, and the lasers had come together in a perfect symphony of destruction. The path to the depot was blown wide open. At 2:44 a.m., the order from Kiev was a single word: fire. 20 FPV drones riding their laser beams through the chaos converged on the depot. They punched straight through the thin corrugated steel roof like a volley of armor-piercing rounds. The 0.5-second fuse delay on their 5 pounds warheads was just long enough. The bombs didn't detonate on the roof. They detonated inside the main storage bay right on top of pallets loaded with North Korean 60mm mortar shells. The shockwave ripped through the Kursk forest, a brutal blast that signaled the endgame. But the real devastation wasn't the initial blast. It was the chain reaction that followed a perfectly engineered lesson in physics. This was the anatomy of destruction. First, the fumes. The primary warheads were designed to trigger a much bigger prize. Their detonation started a cascading fire that cooked off the depot's most valuable asset, 500 North Korean-made Phoenix anti-tank guided missiles. Second, the energy release. When those missile propellant stacks ignited, they created a sustained blast equivalent to 500 pounds of TNT. Trapped inside the concrete depot, the pressure wave had nowhere to go. It smashed against the walls, doubling back on itself, amplifying its own destructive power. It turned a reinforced bunker into a pressure cooker of destruction. Third, the structural collapse. The bunker's walls built to withstand external attacks shattered inward under the blast. The roof collapsed, burying 300 North Korean soldiers and 40% of Russia's reconnaissance drone fleet for the entire sector under tons of rubble. Finally, the secondary effects. The explosion shockwave cut the power grid, severing the command posts linked to the Kasuga 4 jammer. The multi-million-dollar EW system went dead. The North Korean drone network went dark, its command hub crippled in one strike. Zooming out from the wreckage, the scene in Kursk looks like something from a post-apocalyptic movie. The blast carved a 50-foot deep crater that swallowed 200 North Korean soldiers, including 3 commanding generals. Russian ambulances are stuck in the mud, their sirens wailing uselessly in the fog as panicked North Korean survivors run in circles, firing their AK-12 seconds at ghosts. High above, American satellite imagery confirms it a perfect match between the crater coordinates and the ammo depot's location with 0 signs of any remaining radar activity. The Russia-North Korea alliance tries to lock down the area, but the blaring sirens are just a pathetic attempt to cover up a catastrophic failure. The North Koreans thought they were sending in Rambo. Instead, they were turned into headless chickens. Kim Jong-un must be drafting an apology note. Dear President Putin, next time I'm sending robots. Zooming out even further, that single blast in a foggy forest triggered a strategic earthquake that gave Russia and North Korea nightmares for a week. This is how the Fog Pulse Blitz turned a simple drone strike into a warring event. First, the loss of command. The depot wasn't just for storage. It was the central communications hub for the North Korean drone network. When it vaporized, the entire command link between the Russian and North Korean forces crashed for 72 critical hours. Second, reconnaissance paralysis. With their data hub gone, 20% of Russia's drone fleet in the sector, nearly 500 units, was instantly blinded. Ukraine immediately exploited this intelligence blackout, launching a three-pronged counterattack in Sumy. Third, the logistics froze. That depot held 60mm mortar shells and a fortune in Phoenix ATGMs. With its entire local supply chain gone up in smoke, Russia's artillery on the Kursk front went silent for 48 hours. Finally, the psychological shock. Russian officers began to distrust their North Korean allies, and the North Koreans became terrified of the drone ghosts in the fog. The unbreakable alliance had cracked. The result, Russia was forced to pull 5,000 troops back from the front line just to stabilize the chaos. With the Fog Pulse Blitz, Ukraine used fog lasers and 60 cheap drones to annihilate a $100 million North Korean depot. This wasn't just an explosion. It was a declaration in modern warfare. A sharp brain and a little help from Mother Nature will always beat a fat wallet. The Russia-North Korea partnership went from an unbeatable alliance to a failed comedy duo overnight. Like, if you support Ukraine, comment with your favorite tactic from this mission and subscribe to see what happens next when Ukraine hacks a North Korean missile mid-flight. The lesson for today: don't underestimate drones. They're smaller but far more potent than Russian vodka. So, here's the challenge. How would you have used the fog to attack this base? Drop your best tactics in the comments below. If you want more breakdowns of the genius strategies changing the face of this war smash, that like button, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Next up, we're going to show you how Ukraine hacked a North Korean missile mid-flight. You don't want to miss it.